Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and Gazette for today, that is 14th of February 2022. Before we begin, let me welcome all the participants here. Hi Amlan, hi Netra, Bhavani, Supriya, good evening to all of you. Hi Hima, Vakram, good evening. Hi Ravi, Nikhil, Ashish, welcome to both of you. Hi Vivek, Kriti, good evening. Nikhil, thanks for attempting this. Very good. Peace lover, welcome to you as well. Let's begin this session. We have had a delay today, but thank you for waiting for this long. Let's begin. This is an interesting one. We will have some interesting articles covered today. So what do we have on your daily guide to UPSC current affairs? The first one is the three snapshots that we have today. The first one being cross-border insolvency, right? This has been a part of the economic survey also. How India is trying to work about having better cross-border insolvency, we will understand here. The second one is credit rating agencies which have dropped down India's credit ratings and how India has retorted back. And the third one is on the nuclear fusion reactors. We felt we could discuss this in a little more detail about the tokamak and the new fusion reaction, sustained reaction that has happened. This day in history dedicated to the launch of the institution through which we are connected, launch of YouTube 2005, the same day, and see how big it has grown right now. Featured news on a very interesting topic, consumer protection. We will understand in totality what has been the history of consumer protection in India, how it has evolved with time, what are the consumer protection rights that we all have, and how the government has tried to institute three bodies for this so that it can redress the consumer grievances. We will understand in totality what are the issues, what have been the evolution, and how this journey has spanned what are the present issues as well. All right, feature news for today. Image of the day on the Registry Building at the mouth of Hooghly River. This is not India's building, created a long time back in the Hindi newspaper today. Terms and concepts, air sport, because of the policy that the government is envisaging. The second is Self-Reliant India Fund, SRI Fund. The third is Koala Bears in news, become endangered in Australia. And the fourth is Kaziranga, something unique about this forest. Today's editorials are on semiconductor policy. The second one is on CSE, climate smart agriculture, a keyword in itself. And the third one is on Brahmos deal with Philippines. Today's case study is on a lady who has gone into social activism and removal of taboos. So let's understand this. Okay. Hi Pooja, good evening. You didn't attempt the question today. All right. So the first article that we have is on cross-border insolvency. If you remember, right on Friday, we had spoken about these 12 issues that are related to insolvency of cases in the country, in our own country. And this is related to the insolvency proceedings again here, right? How the closure of business must happen and if it is happening in the right way or not, right? So enforcing contracts and resolving insolvency. These both aspects will get covered in this particular aspect. Now, whenever a company grows insolvent, that means they do not have funds enough to be able to do their regular business or to return it to their investors, right? So, for example, if this is a company and there are people from whom it has taken money. So this is a company and they are creditors. There is a creditor 1, there are 2, there are 3, and there is another one, fourth. This fourth creditor is not from India. They have come from abroad, right? Also, this company has also given loans somewhere. This has given loans at several places, domestic, but one place here, it has given loans abroad, right? So this creditor X, and this debtor X, both of them are located not within the country, but beyond the country. When the company goes insolvent, its assets, they will be seized, they will be sold. They could also be restructured. The loans liabilities will be restructured. It would be probably restructured in a way that a part of it is taken by the government or the next agency which is going to take over the whole organization. So the restructuring of the assets, liabilities, and all the finances would happen. In this case, having it conducted within the country is far more easier than having cross-border. The reason being that all the countries have different norms, their financial norms, their economic aspects, the way the redressal has to happen, the courts that have to function, the insolvency bankruptcy code in various countries, or the national companies law tribunal, the place where these kind of cases they run, the complete set of operations and laws are different in all the countries. And this is the reason that we are not able to either, we are at disadvantage at many places. For example, if this company was owed some money from an international person or institution, the company will not be able to take back this money because now it is running under insolvency proceedings. On the other hand, some people, creditors from abroad, they will also be at disadvantage at places because they will not be able to claim money from a company in India, right? So this is why there was an institution, United Nations institutions, and what it did was that it initiated a law, a model law around the whole world, right? So this model law is on United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, right? UN Citral, it proposed a model law on cross-border insolvency. And it said that this is only a model law. Instead of you people opting for bilateral laws, why not have a model law through which all of you have the same set of laws and we will be able to operate. These laws will be universal, right? They will be applicable to all the parties which are participating. These laws will also have the bilateral agreements, right? And they will be impartial to both the parties, right? What I have to follow, right? In case I have to retrieve money, I will have to also follow in case somebody wants to take money from me. So they will be impartial in that way, right? And all is required is for each country to adopt this model law. Just like India is a federation and India needs to, the federal states have to adopt model laws initiated by the center. For example, the Model Tenancy Act. This is the way United Nations also has formed a model law and all the countries have to adopt it. Now, India last year itself proposed a law in this, and India put this law in the public domain for it to be publicly scrutinized. A law on the cross-border insolvency. What is the reason? The reason is very simple. We have many companies in India which had given loans to other companies abroad, right? So if it is Jet Airways or Kingfisher or Videocon, all going through insolvency proceedings, if they have assets abroad, those assets or if they have those people who it gave loan to, right? There are loans which have to be refunded from abroad. The government was not able to retrieve that kind of fund because we did not have standardized laws. So they said that let us come up with these laws. This might be good for us. This also will be good for those people who want to take money from us, but at least let us be more transparent here. So that is why this is in news, right? Companies have to have the same set of norms abroad and within India, right? So part of the news says Indian Adjudicating Authority NCLT shall be vested with the power to recognize a foreign proceeding as well. So proceedings happening abroad, they will be recognized by our judicial authorities as well, either as main proceeding or non-main proceeding, right? Emanating from a country where debtor company has center of interest or a country where debtor mayor has establishment, right? So if there is a debtor, example, a debtor, and where there is an establishment or the center of origin, right? Either of them will have to be recognized. All of them will have to be recognized by our laws as well, right? And the government can also impose some kind of reservations on critical assets. For example, bank, insurance companies, etc. They will not be subjected to cross-border insolvency because some kind of critical cases, finances, they need not be disclosed everywhere. So government will reserve them for scrutiny, right? And they will also be it will also be able to impose moratorium to preserve assets of the foreign entity in India. Since it is a bilateral agreement, government will also preserve the assets of the foreign company in India, right? So what's very simple example of this is that if we have Keynes India. Keynes is a British company, right? Keynes Vedanta deals happen. So if this company has got assets in India, and it has also given loans to people in India, these assets will be preserved under Indian law not merely because this company is going through bankruptcy and insolvency, it doesn't mean that its assets will not be preserved in India. The government will ensure that these assets are also preserved under the treaty, right? So this is why this is news, because many companies are going through insolvency, and domestic insolvency is getting resolved, that is fine, but these are cross-border insolvency because of increased globalization, because the world has converted into a global village. These laws, standardization of these laws is a mandate, and see, this is only going to increase the ease of doing business. Why? Because entering a business has become quite easy these days. You have seen the number of startups India has had, but exiting a business has become a question. And exiting a business, even in case of domestic companies, it's still fine, but in case of international companies, this is the issue, right? Standardization of laws, in short, right? So protection of asset of each of the companies, whether Indian or one from abroad, this is what is required through maintaining cross-border insolvency norms, right? United Nations norms, right? So this is what we have updated right here. Now, the issues at present is that in case we don't have these kind of laws, the first flaw is that who should be getting the money in case the company goes bankrupt? If there are some assets they have to be sold, who should be owning that money? The creditor abroad or the creditor inside the country, right? So what is the priority of payments, right? What is the recognition of claims in case somebody from Mauritius, somebody from United Kingdom, somebody from US starts on Singapore, they start to claim that yes, I had also given loan to this Videocon company in India. Should those claims be recognized or not? We need standardized laws, right? And their enforcement as well, right? So this is the reason that we need standardized laws to make business a little easier in our country. Those 12 norms that I had shown, these norms are part of the ease of doing business report that used to be released by World Bank. No more getting released at all because of certain issues, but these points are still very, very relevant. So thank you. Some of you have remembered all these points. Each of them form a main question in themselves. Paying taxes, dealing with construction permits, starting a business, getting credit, trading across borders, all of them, getting electricity, all of them are important. All right. The second update is, and yes, what is required, last point is access, recognition, cooperation, coordination, right? So these are the words that you could use. Also remember that United Nations organization, UN, Citral, and the model law they have initiated. Snapshot. 2. Credit rating agencies. What are these about? All right. Hi Tiyasha. Hi Ravi. Hi Abhinav. Yes, Nikhil, I saw that. Don't worry. Don't worry. It happens. There are times when we do not read the question properly, and this is how we fall into the trap. This is the mistake, and this is the reason I recommend you to read, each of you to read the question at least 2 to 3 times. Even if you have understood the keywords, we do not understand what is the ask of the question. Is it comment? Is it explain? Is it elaborate? Is it analyze? What is it? So all of them could mean something else. Even if we have read the keywords properly, it is possible we do not read these segments properly, and we fail to address the demand of the question. There was a time I remember in class 11th, I could not answer the question. That was a Hindi paper, and the question said, attempt Hindi, it was written, Athwa, and I understood Athwa as or, and I didn't attempt all the questions, so I didn't do well in that examination. It happens. Take it as learning. We can afford to fail here, and we must not fail in the examination. That is the point. The second update is on credit rating agencies. They have been in question by the government. We will know why. Now, popular credit rating agencies, where are they? All right. Just a bit, I will show them to you. Yes, have a look. Now these are credit rating agencies around the world. They work, they are international, they are superpowers in themselves. Just like we have big tech companies, we have credit rating companies, and the biggest one of them are Moody's, S&P and Fitch. These three are really big, right? So companies based in the developed world, and their aim is to rate agencies around the world, international organizations, national organizations, even the countries on their credit worthiness. What is the level of finances they have? What are the kind of debt that they own? And how will they be able to repay the debt? And on the basis of that assessment, yearly and 6 monthly, quarterly assessment, they rate those companies, they rate those countries on various parameters. So you can see Moody's has ratings like AAA, AA1, AA2, AA3, and similarly it moves on to B, BAA1, BAA2, and then C, and at the end the C is the rating. Similarly S&P has it from AAA to AA plus, B moving to D default. For Fitch also we have certain rating agencies. All of them operate on some similar parameter. Their analytics are little different. The people who manage this are little different, right? Their criteria may be different, but then largely they indicate the credit worthiness of the country. Now what they have done here, why they are in news and why they are being called as dubious, is because they have rated India in not very well regards. They have rated our country, and the analysis is that our country does not have a long-term plan for fiscal consolidation, right? So one of the companies, Moody's, says that yes, India is growth oriented, yes, India is credit positive, but then in midterm we do not know where our fiscal will move ahead to, right? And they have also said that since we are at around 90% of debt, the country's debt is 90%, and therefore repaying back in the midterm will be a question, right? So this is one of the points that Moody has raised. Is it not true? This is actually true that we have 90% of debt. We have discussed this, 60% of debt by union and around 30% by the state governments. And this was not 90, this was around 70 before COVID, less than 70. And we were actually decreasing our debt. But because of the last 2 years of COVID, the debt has only increased with time, right? So the proposed budget that we spoke of few days back, 40 lakh of around expenditure, this is what we have proposed in the budget estimate, and 25 lakh of collection will happen. Rest of the amount, fiscal deficit, will be a loan itself and then interest payment on them. So on one hand, they are not factually incorrect, but keep noting, this is a fact only. The analytics will come a little later, right? So this is one. And what has so this is Moody's. What has Fitch said? Fitch has said that yeah, we put India on a negative outlook right now, BBB minus, right? Investment grade may they have put them at a negative outlook, BBB minus. So BBB minus is right here in the middle, right? And then we have BB plus and then further lower ratings. Now they are indicators. These ratings are indicators to let investors know what is the best time to invest in a country like this. For example, if we are investing at the category C in any country, and their credit worthiness right now indicates that it is not very strong, they won't be able to return back the loan. So investors purposefully do not invest. They in fact wait for these kind of reports from around the world, and this is an indicator for where to invest. So on one hand, if you look at the first snapshot that we discussed, India is trying to ensure ease of doing business in our country, ease of doing business through the contracts, right? Enforcement of international contracts and cross-border insolvency. But on the other hand, if you see, the payments are not getting made to our country, if FIIs and FDIs do not come because of Fitch rating, Moody's rating, or S&P's rating, then we will not have sufficient funds or growth in Indian economy. The bull's run that India had last year and almost peaked this year, this is going to stop if we do not have major investors coming in, which largely depend on these companies, right? So these are the rating agencies that we're talking of. Now let me tell you something that is not a part of this, because I know certain people working in this industry, so I can tell you some really important things about these organizations. Now these are credit ratings. Suppose this organization is Fitch. Suppose this is Fitch. Now on one hand, these agencies rate countries, India and Sri Lanka and USA as well. On the other hand, they also rate organizations. So company A, company B, company Edukemy also, they rate each of them, right? what is their worthiness. They also check their financials, they understand it, and they tell if they are good investment destinations or not. On the other hand, this is one of the things that they do, and they have a huge business. They have thousands and thousands of employees. They also are in huge profits. The point being, they also run services. They give services to anybody who wants. What is the kind of services? They give services to these companies only. The services are of the sort, we will give you data so that you understand where to invest. Now imagine if India is taking, this is only an example, if India is taking the services of Pitch itself, and India is paying millions and millions and possibly billions of dollars also to Fitch to tell where India must invest. Should India invest in USA or Japan or China or where else for profit? Fitch will keep telling where to invest, and it will also rate the country or the company. Is there not a conflict of interest? Yes, there is. What about the kickbacks received? Kickbacks are the informal payments, corruption, goose, whatever you call it. So they can also join a side. No, they can also come along, and then Fitch will be bound to give India a better rating, so that more more investments come to India, and India is able to invest back in the better countries. So point being that this is a conflict of interest. Absolutely it is. Yes. And most of these companies are based in developed world, right? So how would they rate the developed world? Of course good. Of course good. So when they have said that India is at BBB minus, would you like to know what is happening to the developed world? See, ideally a developing countries, I read a United Nations report, it said that ideally a developing country should have the debt ratio around 40 to 50% of the GDP. That's it. And slowly and steadily it might increase because it has to expend more to be able to develop itself. And developed country would have maybe 70 to 80 to 90%, right? Right? So this is the status, because they also have liabilities, no? Their revenue payments are high because they have to run many social programs in the country, developed countries. Human indicators high, HDI high, but then population is low, right? They export, they outsource all their services. So the status of developed country is okay, fine, accepted 70-80%. But when you look at a country like Japan, like USA, like economies in Europe, PIGS economy, they are not 70-80%, 90%, yeah. They are 150%, 200% of GDP, and yet their ratings are not bad. Why so? So this is the question India has raised. India will raise the question every time hands are pointed at it. So this is an example, and this is the real story that I am sharing. Conflict of interest, right? So you look at USA, 133% of debt for USA, and Japan it is 256%. It is not less for other countries' economic, the PIGS economy. Right? If you look at Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain, where do they fall? High levels of debt, right? The whole, even despite restructuring of the debt, it would take hundreds of years for Greece to repay the loans, right? So yet European economy is supporting Greece, right? So this is the point. See, Greece, a country like Greece, country like Italy, they have something called a shadow economy. India also has it, shadow economy. What is a shadow economy? This is a parallel economy that runs alongside the taxed economy. In shadow economies, a lot of payments in tourism, in services, products, they will bypass the formal tax structure. Government will not receive taxation, and through this, there will be sufficient number of product services created and available in the market, but government will not be able to receive the tax. So this is shadow economy. This is illegal. Right? And many of these advanced countries also have shadow economy. So the idea is to improve this kind of economy and come to a formal structure. All right. Okay. There are questions. Let me see. Good evening, Dilip. BRC has proposed an independent credit agency to circumvent this problem. See, we have CRISIL in India. CRISIL, associated government body, but again it is associated with S&P Global. See, our credit worthiness was also decided on the basis of which we are given loans. That is also based on because the private companies have the model, right? So this is it. All right, because of their credit worthiness, make happy to big fishes for sustain in the oceans. Okay. All right, so this is the second one. See, lot of understanding we gain from this article, right? So this is not about credit worthiness also. You can pick in a lot of other data. For example, the disparity between the developed countries and the developing countries. Developing countries need more support, right? They are the one at the high growth levels. But on the other hand, the ratings are not according to that requirement, right? You can also look at the that the conflict of interest exists, amidst these kind of ratings. So this is what India has opposed. India is not happy with the double standards. See, we have covered that. So not only that India says that we question the credibility of the report, the data quality, right, the survey error proneness, all those things, but also that these are double standards and misleading parameters. All right, justified at its own end. But then yes, criticism is valid at some level where they say that the fiscal mid-term consolidation is questioned. And how do we respond to a question like this? If you are regular in the program, you will say we are an agile approach, barbell strategy, agility on one hand, and we will provide a safety net on the other. Give examples after that and you will prove your point. All right. So this is how we have to become agile while answering also, as simple as that. If you understand my, what I'm saying, you will be able to definitely adopt it. So do not attach yourself emotionally to a particular point. Have both the sides to it. Snapshot 3 is on nuclear fusion reactors and updates. See, what happens is, we've discussed this point of, my slides have vanished today. I don't know where they've gone. All right. Just a bit, I will show this to you. There are phases of formation of a star, and in one of the important phases, there is a lot of reaction going on within the star. Yes, right? So this is a popular image. This is a nebula first. Nebula is a cloud of gases and dust. And after the Big Bang, the particles expanded and got thrown in various directions. And they were rotating at a very high speed. They were also moving farther at a very high speed, accelerating speeds, right? Dark energy. What is that giving that kind of speed to it so that it moves so fast? That is dark energy. Still not known. And they are also accelerating, going farther apart, right? So this is one. Dark matter. Dark matter is some matter which exists, which is not known, but it is tending. It ensures that the particles, sometimes they travel in a very zigzag fashion and we don't even know what that particle is which is attracting that particular entity. So that is dark matter. So when this nebula starts to rotate very fast, the particles do come close. And these are very, very elementary particles, quarks, neutrons, electrons. They start to react. Why? Because when they start to come close, they are also operating under friction. They are also rotating at very high speed. They have energy. Energy releases heat. And because of heat, because of gravitation, because of extreme pressure with which they get bound, they start to react with each other. And after this reaction happens, this is called as a nuclear reaction. And they fuse with each other. One example of fusion is hydrogen atoms or plasma getting fused to form helium. And hydrogen also got fused by the fusing of electrons and protons. And this is how they get fused. They also release energy. The energy intensive nature is there, but they also release energy. I will share why. This will understand in tokamak. So when they release energy, this energy is again used to make those higher particles react. So when hydrogen reacts with another hydrogen, it releases helium. Heliums will start reacting with each other. They will release further energy, and this is how a star shines. But after a duration, these stars won't shine as much because the particles will get converted to a bigger particle. Their nucleus will be very, very heavy. It will become say carbon, oxygen, or even higher minerals, higher elements. And this is why in the phases of evolution of star, the end stages will be towards the death of star. In fact, sun has already lived 5 billion years of age, and 5 or 7, right? And 5-7 more has to happen. I think 5 or 10 billion years. This is what sun has lived till now, and our own star, and 5 or 7 more it will live. After that it will also die, and that is when it might form black hole. Any star might form black hole, neutron star, or white dwarf, pulsating stars, rotating at a very high speed but hardly any energy. We are trying to simulate all this reaction at Earth itself. We are trying to create an artificial sun. This project started in the 1950s, and in fact even before that, right? Some of these people started this project to create enormous amount of energy for nuclear reaction. Some people said that we will create this for disastrous purposes, for example bombing another nation. Some people wanted to create it for energy, right? So what has happened right now, that JET, Joint European Torus, this is a initiative by European Union, many countries, India also is a participant. They have successfully derived 59 megajoules for some certain amount of sustained reaction, and this amount of energy which has been which they have arrived at, this is the maximum that they have arrived at as of now. That is why a very, very important feat. Now how this reaction actually happens is something like this. Okay. Yes, this is the fusion reactor, right? This fusion reactor is called as tokamak, and this fusion reactor is in the shape of a torus. The idea is that if we are able to rotate the plasma particles, the particles of say hydrogen itself, heated at a very, very high temperature, that particle, if it can be made to rotate with the help of magnetic field in this particular motion, and further they start to react, this will produce enormous energy through the same fusion reaction that happened in the sun. This is the idea, and they have produced these kind of reactors in Europe, also in France, what we are talking of right now, JET, and we also have a similar setup in China as well, right? A similar setup in China, and China also is in the process of creating this kind of reaction. So this is an update from here. Yes, what happens is that they are trying, what the scientists are trying here is that they are trying to ensure that these 4 hydrogen atoms, they yield one helium, and the mass, atomic mass of each of them is say 1.00 some element, right? But the sum total of these 4 hydrogen is not equivalent to helium. The helium mass is little lesser than the product of these 4 hydrogen. So where does the rest of the mass go? It gets converted into energy, and that is the massive energy that we are talking of. The amount of energy produced by only 4 hydrogen atoms reacting to produce one helium will be sufficient to light a 60-watt bulb, for 100 years. Imagine this, only 4 hydrogen atoms, and millions of these reactions are happening in sun. In fact, even more than millions. If we can harness this at earth level, we will be able to produce cleaner energy. The present form of energy, what does it have? It has carbon intensivity, it has got global warming impacts, it has got methane production, it has got those elements produced which we do not want, ash. Only 2 days back we understood, no, ash and its production. So all this will get avoided, pollution will get avoided if we produce this kind of fusion energy. This is what the world is now at. All right, that is why an important feat. Why so? Because this was a sustained reaction, and there was a breakthrough for people here. That is why, right? So no production of greenhouse gases, soot, acidic rain, no possibility of meltdown of reactor. All those things will not be there. All right. International Thermoreactor Experiment. What is it? ITR. International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Right. This is the one. This is the project. International Thermoreactor Experimental Reactor. This is the project, right? See, including India, USA, Russia, Japan, South Korea, European Union, all of them are doing this, right? So do remember the word tokamak. This is the whole setup in which magnetic field is created. Do remember the structure in which it has to rotate, revolve, torus, and do remember these two projects, JET by European Union, and China has another one. China's project is called as HEAT, right? It's an acronym. It's an acronym. I'm forgetting the word here, right? So these are the 2 projects that are happening around the world. All right. This is why this important update. This day in history dedicated to launch of YouTube. Great. When did it happen? It happened on 2015, 14th of February. So great day, because this is how we got connected. Thank you, YouTube. And in fact, thank you, Google, because Google purchased YouTube later. The idea was earlier to just share informal videos of home, and they didn't understand if business could be created. But when Google came into being and related to YouTube, they started creating business. So there are many models of creating business, and one important model is through YouTube itself. In fact, YouTube ideally uses these videos. I remember there was a time when there were no ads at all, and slowly and steadily there were ads, and they were optional ads, right? You could skip them immediately, but after that they made the ads compulsory. 5-second ads, one ad, and after that they made 15 seconds ads also and compulsory, and now we have 2 ads also. Imagine that. So these are the ads which have been put on YouTube. The people who are giving these ads, they are paying for these ads. On the other hand, YouTube or Google is earning the revenues, and this is how they are able to sustain themselves, right? And how are we spending for these for whatever we watch? We spend it through watching all these ads. So Ankur Wariko, right? Hi on YouTube. Why so? Because we are spending our time watching them, and this is how YouTube gets paid, right? So when Google owned, and this is a complete model in itself. If there is a Khan sir, if you know about him, very popular teacher from Patna, his sufficient revenues are also from YouTube. It is because his view time is so much, and so many people are watching his videos, interesting videos, that YouTube puts some ads there, and YouTube also gets paid in those ads because of that corporate. For example, Sensodyne, toothbrush or toothpaste, that ad has been pasted on Khan sir's video. So people view that, and only the view time is able to give Khan sir a lot of profits, and also YouTube as an intermediary. So let me explain to you. This is the model for YouTube revenue generation itself. However, let me tell you how a company like Google has been accused of doing something dubious here. What Google does, see, tech giant, and you should know these examples. So when this is Google, and Google ads have to be displayed at places, what Google does is that, for example, if this is X company and this is Y company, they have posted their ads here, right? And these companies say that I will give you, say, 500 rupees for posting these ads here, right? Now, there are 2 types of things here. When Google ads are posted, there are people who click on these ads, right? Now, and the people who consume these ads, right? They might even purchase these services. Now, Google does not reveal the seller and the buyer side to people. So this is the buyer side, and these are the seller side. It does not reveal what is the rate at which the buyer is using these ads, what is the rate at which the person is selling this ad. And this is how they are going to create. They have already created massive revenues for themselves. Ideally, they should be taking, according to their own contract, they should be taking a percentage of the transaction, but they do not reveal one side to the other, and this is how they are able to do their business. This is an accusation against them. It is there in American courts. This is YouTube model, and YouTube is a part of Google. Feature news for the day on consumer protection, something on these lines, but a lot more dependent on what is happening in our country. We will understand in this featured news the evolution of the complete journey of consumer protection in our country. What are the 6 main protections, and a lot more practical application of it through 3 institutions. And what are the liability clauses? What is class action? We will understand a lot of it through the example of GlaxoSmithKline, right? We will also understand certain examples apart from this one as well, right? So a beautiful article on the consumer protection today. Feature news. This building is Registry Building, and this is at Chandranagar at Hooghly, right, West Bengal. This is the first place where the French, they had their settlement. The name itself suggests Registry Building, right? So for goods and trading services, you got to register right here in this building. Now Bhoot Bangla. So government of India and government of France have said we will try to restore this building. This is a heritage building, Chandranagar, right? So first trading post on the eastern bank of Hooghly, set up by the French, year 1696. All right, this day in history. This was in Hindu, that is why I covered. All right. So Hima says experimental advanced superconducting tokamak. Yes, East, that is the name. This is China's reactor. Everybody please pay that some attention to that word, experimental advanced superconducting tokamak. China's. All right. Terms and concept. The first term for today is air sports in India. It is a news. It was a news we have covered right now because we had too many terms to cover. Sometimes I feel that even despite what's present here, I must present some slides and show you some more articles here. We'll keep doing it, but we fall short of time in explanations, right? So air sport in India. Now, Civil Aviation Ministry has recently discussed the draft National Air Sports Policy. Air sport is one of the upcoming, sunrise industries in India as far as tourism and sports is considered. But what about winter sports? Winter sports in India. Do you know how many people went to China representing India? Indian flag in China. How many people represented in the Winter Olympics? This is the number. Mr. Arif from Gulmarg, he represented in ski sport. That is all we had from India. Right? Despite having destinations where tourism is possible, where winter sport is possible, India's representation, a major economy, third by PPP and sixth by the nominal values, GDP total, and one of the major countries, our representation was just 1%. So not a criticism, but just saying that the level of awareness of winter sport is less in our country. There's a lot of scope, and so has the scope of air sports in India. What are we talking of? So a sport like this where people jump, right, from the sky, skydiving, aerobatics, gliding, drones, ballooning, hand gliding, paragliding. This all got a lot of scope in a country like ours, and this is why the country is developing a national air sports policy. That is why news. All right, that is it. But when we look at the issue of drones, right? So drone can also be a part of air sport. But one more important update about drones is that we have paused the import of drones in our country. We will be creating drones, right, for commercial and other applications. This was one thing in news, and the second thing in news is that there was a report which said that in recent past we have had 130 plus drone sightings along the border, right? So possibly emanating from Pakistan, these drones. So a hybrid warfare using technology. These are examples for you. All right. Self-Reliant India Fund, SRI Fund. This is a fund which is going to work in the alternative investment fund model, right? Now, this fund will have two components, the mother component and the daughter component, right? But the mother component will be owned by the government, and daughter component will have investors coming in from various places. Remember the model, the word to be used here is the hybrid model of investment called as the, if you know the name, what is that name? Just on Friday we discussed this, the model in which the government acts as a booster for investment, but it crowds in private investment. Do you remember that model? That was a keyword to be used, right? So here a lot of investors will also invest money. How? They could be people from private equity, they could be people who are corporates investing by themselves, right? So hefty funds. They could be venture capitalists, they could be people who are angel investors, all of them contributing to this fund. And through this fund, this will be channelized further to distribute the funds in various sectors. Self-Reliant India Fund. All right. So around 5,000 MSMEs are expected to benefit from this SRI fund. This is what is the news. When I explained you this model in which the fund is collected through such kind of investors, angel investors, private equity, etc., this is the model under alternative investment fund. All right. So this is MSME fund with SRI model, mother fund and daughter funds. Koala bears becomes endangered. These are those small bears, right? They are endemic to certain areas. One of those places is Australia. I remember a couple of years back when Australia, there were certain regions in Australia which was under fire. There were koala bear sightings, and they were literally burning in fire, and many of them got killed also because of the fire. Point being, Point being that now these animals have turned endangered from vulnerable, and you must remember the complete list of IUCN list. So we have endangered, and then critically endangered, and then after critically endangered is extinct in wild, and after that extinct. Extinct in wild means that it is not found in wild, but it is found at ex situ locations, for example, zoo or conservation centers, right? And extinct is extinct altogether. And now they have also started to preserve the genes to be able to reproduce them through some of the other scientific developments. And before endangered is vulnerable, and then we have other criteria as well. You must remember this sequence, a sequence of around 10 to 12 ratings for the endangered categories. Koala bear is now endangered because of certain reasons. Yes, and it is vegetarian, herbivorous. Marsupial is an animal which has got a pouch in which it keeps its baby. Example are kangaroos and koalas, right? So globally recognized symbol of Australia's unique wildlife, endemic to this particular region, great threat to the species because of bushfires, cumulative impact of diseases, urbanization, habitat loss. They survive on trees, eating these leaves. Beautiful animals, cute animals. Kaziranga, a net carbon emitter. See, this is something unique about some specific places, Kaziranga being one. What is so unique? Usually carbon is said to get emitted from the forest, but in Kaziranga, carbon, in usual forest, in a tree setup, the ecosystem, ideally the tree should be releasing more carbon dioxide, more oxygen than it should be intaking more oxygen. Yeah, right. The trees are said to be storehouses of carbon sequestration, and they should be emitting more oxygen. This is how trees are ideally and forests are ideally, but Kaziranga is not such. Kaziranga has net carbon emission. This is a unique case study of some specific places. This is happening because of two reasons. One reason is the increased spread of cloud cover at this place, which does not enable the photosynthesis reaction to happen. If photosynthesis is not happening, then oxygen is not getting released, food is not getting produced, right? And carbon dioxide is also not getting consumed. So this is the reason that the plant is actually only surviving, and it is not doing the biological work processes, all of them. It is surviving and it is intaking oxygen to breathe, and it is emitting carbon dioxide. So largely a net carbon emitter. This is one reason. The second reason for this kind of data from Kaziranga is this, that the places here have a large population of bacteria that release carbon dioxide, the soil. So these are the two factors because of which Kaziranga has net carbon emitter, right? Is it not said that we shouldn't be sleeping around plants at night just because they do not conduct photosynthetic reaction at night because there is no sunlight? And at night time they will still keep breathing. So similar reason, if you venture into Kaziranga, you should know that this place is net carbon emitter. All right. It's a good case for you to talk about. Let me see if there are questions. Blended funding. Okay, that is the word. Thank you, Kriti, Hima, Ravi. Very good. Diplomatic boycott. 1. Oh yes, very good. No, Ravi, diplomatic boycott is a different thing. Diplomatic boycott means the diplomats will not go, but what is the level of participation? That will still happen. No, there is no sports boycott. There's a diplomatic boycott, right? So in diplomatic boycott, the people who are, for example, secretary level officers, premiers of Russia went, right? Some premiers of some countries which are associated with China, those went, but countries from Quad, European economies didn't go, yet they have representation. Right. So first editorial that we have for today is again on international relations. I have promised to cover some specific things about India's export industry that I want to cover. I will cover. For example, what is the reason that Brahmos is being in high demand throughout the whole world? What sets this missile apart from other missiles of its own genre? This is one. Similarly, there's a question on. I propose a question like this: J-10 aircrafts which have been bought by Pakistan from China and India which bought Rafale. What is that which makes Rafale more superior to J-10? Similarly, or other or other aircrafts. And now there was another question on S400. No, S400 was already asked, but I will still cover this to make you understand in details. And we also have a question of our Tejas. Now, in one of these summit level organizations which is getting organized in Singapore, their Tejas will be demonstrated. Its operations will be demonstrated. So India is trying to market its Tejas through maneuvers and sorties in Singapore. Why? People will purchase it. So we must understand why these Indian entities are superior to other entities. And only a few days back we covered the whole defense export industry. India is a major importer. India is only 24th or 25th in number, in 20s in number, when we consider India's export potential of defense. So 24th largest exporter, but amongst the top 5 importers, right? This has been spoken by the Stockholm NGO, CIPRI, which works in the same field. And India is, in fact, after Saudi Arabia, India is the second largest importer for defense products. So India, what is trying to do right now is to substitute the import from abroad to be able to manufacture in the country itself. We increased our percentage of capital expenditure in defense from 60 to 70. Whatever capital expenditure was to be done in defense industry, we have increased that from 60% of the capital expenditure that was to be done for defense productions to 70 for indigenous manufacturing only. So if Russia has to sell it, they start manufacturing their products in India. So Brahmos is in news because it is going to be advantageous for us. A lot of countries like Vietnam, like UAE, Indonesia, and Philippines, they are already demanding a product like this, because this is how they will be able to save themselves from China's onslaught. China has been notorious because it has developed artificial islands in South China Sea and East China Sea, both of them. So these countries require some level of deterrent from these Chinese developments. Brahmos has been a breakthrough deal there. Now, whenever you look at a missile system, this is not just the missile that is sold. They don't just, let you, say that, yeah, take this missile, this is yours. Missile battery, the complete battery of missile constitutes of certain entities. What are those entities? One battery. Now, here in this case, Philippines has purchased 3 batteries. One battery will contain missile systems, its delivery system, right? If it is a vehicle, it will contain that vehicle. And launchers, this is one. It will also contain radar. Why? Because these missiles have to detect a target. No, the target detection will happen only through radar. Radar as a thodi, it has to be indigenous. It has to be sold by India. And they also have to have a command and control center, CNC. This is the place where the people sit. They are the ones who press the button to launch the missile. And along with that, maintenance, logistics, servicing, and training. This is what India has promised. 3 sets of these complete entities. So 2 launchers will be there. 2 launchers will be there in each battery. Why am I explaining this in so much of detail is because they have already asked the question on S400 on similar lines. Right now, S400 battery also contains similar setup, a very similar setup. Just the difference that it has a radar setup, it has command and control centers. These are different vehicles, and it also has a rocket launcher wala vehicle. And in S400, you be able to imagine one launcher has got one vehicle has got 4 launchers, 4 canisters for launch, and in one battery they have 8 such vehicles. So 32 rockets can be launched from one battery, S400, and within a matter of seconds. That is why it's so popular. And India has purchased overall 5 batteries of these S400. So 32 missiles into 5 of them can be fired at one go if they are placed at one place. So this particular deal is going to be a breakthrough between not only India and Philippines, but also India and other countries, because Philippines will demonstrate India's capability, marketing, right? Once you see that I am decent enough to share things with you, you will say, yes, he teaches decently well, so let's go and let's go to him. So this is how the world is going to market what India has. All right, and India already has set a target for $500 billion by 2025. So this is a good thing here. It will also be a silent message to China that if you are selling weapons to our neighbor, we might as well sell weapons to you. All right, China is helping Sri Lanka now. And China is also funding Sri Lanka because India is not able to fund as much. India gave $1.5 billion in credit. Rest $0.5 billion are being given by China at various places. So when China is helping our neighbors, we will also help their neighbors, right? So tit for tat. India has also given $100 million credit to purchase these $350 billion deals. All right. What is next? The other one is climate smart agriculture and semiconductor dream, right? So this semiconductor dream is nothing but talking of the kind of setup that we are going to advance in India. A $10 billion package incentive, right, to manufacture of semiconductors in India. Design link incentive scheme. This is focused on that. And it says that the demand for semiconductors is going to increase 3 to 4 folds by 2030. And that is the reason that we need India to be Atmanirbhar, electronics manufacturing in India. What we need here is a robust IPR protection. What we need here is those people who are designing these semiconductors, India's semiconductors, to be working for India itself. Example is here. India has a large and growing domestic market for semiconductors and home to the largest number of chip designers outside US. See, what a state of pity for us. So this is the complete dream that we have. So whenever you look at these articles and you feel that there is some repetition happening, don't worry, just cover a new data that you have. For example, home to largest number of chip designers outside of the US. So this is a part of ADEC. Rest of it we have covered previously. What are the key points here? If you don't find any, no problem. If you find no cases, no problem. But if you find an example or data, that's a good thing. If you find a positive analysis here or something more than what you have analyzed earlier, just put that in the same place where you have put about the semiconductor industry, right? So this is a quick update, and slowly and steadily you will know that you will never have to read editorials if you know the updates of both the sides, or if there are multiple sides, you will not need that. Now this is on climate smart agriculture. If you have not heard the keyword, climate smart agriculture is a very important keyword for geography students, but it is also a part of general studies. Climate smart agriculture must become resilient to climate. And for example, if it is a drought, if there is saline water, if there is excessive of flooding, if the temperature rises very high despite the presence of water, will the crop be able to survive? Probably not, right? This is the reason that we need climate smart agriculture. We do not only need those hybrid varieties which can survive these places. There is also a requirement to upgrade the kind of crops that are cultivated at places. For example, the article itself says that rice is unsustainable to cultivate at certain places in India, which the places which were traditionally not the places where rice should have grown, those were used for growing of rice. Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, enormous amount of water was was an input, and that place grew unsustainable, right? It can also be linked. Just last week we linked the production of or the extraction of groundwater with the pollution of rivers. See, such a strange yet a vital link, and we have not been able to link. Only scientists have been able to do it, not in action. But we still have the habit. This is not climate smart, because eventually it will lead to the drying of groundwater. The base flow in rivers will decrease. There will be more pollution in rivers. People will not be able to drink good water. Rice production will also eventually decrease only because there will be no water at all. So we must adopt climate smart practices. Millets, right? Dryland cropping, those should be used, right? Look at a very good example of the kind of emission that we have in this sector. 73% of country's methane is emitted through agriculture sector. How? Emission of methane is through various ways. For example, biotic products which are getting stale, they will slowly and steadily release methane, right? Paddy fields, dung of animals, cow dung. If they are not covered, if they are not being used in a process setup or covered, they will start slowly and steadily releasing methane, and we produce 73% of country's methane through agriculture or agriculture allied industries. So this is not climate smart, is it? It is not. This is what has been updated here, and you will be surprised to know the kind of emissions that happen, the kind of wastage of water that happens through rice cultivation. You will be surprised to know that the rice that we value so less, enormous amount of water is spent to be able to cultivate 1 kilo of rice. So updated here about climate smart agriculture. Case study for today is on a lady. This lady, she has worked on an important social taboo that has existed in around the world, right? So the artificial implants for bodies, for breasts, if people have gone through breast cancer surgeries, something that made them survive, but still they felt not comfortable in society because of how they look, right? People would get into body shaming. This is not human rights. This is not good for human rights. So what she did, this lady working on a taboo kind of thing, she created artificial implants for people, prosthetics for people, and she has also been able to sell it throughout the whole world, right? So this is a major achievement, right? And have a look, her organization has created a network of 270 volunteers from across India, UAE, US, who have distributed 5,700 prostheses for free for last 4 years. Wonderful job. And she is from Mumbai in India, right? So how can you use an example like this? This is from society. This can be used for innovation. And if you can see the image well, she is an elderly lady. So innovation is not defied by any age barrier. She has not given up on this. You can also look at it from the perspective of removal of taboo in society, body shaming. Ho gaya. So, multiple ways. You look at an article and try to remember the whole syllabus. How does it fit in there? If it does fit, well and good. If it doesn't, take it as a case study for other places, for example, like this. So this is how every article can be utilized for your UPSC preparation. If at all there is a match, if it does not have, it will not have a deck for you. This has an a deck for you. This has a case study here of a lady, right? So this is it. The important thing in illness is never to lose heart. All right. So not only in illness, but otherwise as well. Why to lose heart? There's so much to do in the world. So what we will do right now is meet in the future news. If there are questions, please post them down. And you have to like this initiative if you appreciate the effort, and we will quickly meet in the second video. All right. Ravi says, I thought that because of diplomatic boycott, Indian athletes did not go. Ravi, participation is very less in winter sport from India in general as well. All right. So thank you for participating. We will quickly meet in the next video. See you in the feature news for today. Thanks for participating. All right. There's some things that you have put here. Ravi says, snake plant releases oxygen at night. Oh, really? Nice to know.